Hello, and welcome to the third lesson in the fourth Fetter. And this lesson is a little bit different because I got Toddlet with me. And we talked about making a sofa set as a part of the lesson, because we would like to talk about the fourth Fetter, about the wants, but make it a bit more practical. So it's more like practical application. How do you use the 10 pointers? That's the theme for this sofa set. It's the 10 pointers that you had in the second lesson. And we're going through all the 10 pointers and then see if we can make it into a more practical application in your everyday life. Because want is one of the big ones. It's one of the ones that when we have worked with the foundational fetters, the first 3 fetters, and look through all the things we've seen through self, and we're aware of all the different trauma, we're aware of our starting point and all of that. We've been a very good student and done all the lessons. And then we get to want, and it's so difficult to give up because there's so many things that we want. There's so many things that we want to be different. There's so many things that we don't want to look at. And when you listen to the first 2 lessons in the fourth Fetter, the feedback that I have gotten was that that suddenly you see so clearly how many diversions that is actually there, that is actually hidden under the wants. And that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to take the 10 pointers one at a time, and then talk about them. So have your notebook ready, and here we go. So the first pointer is 5 years from now, everything is exactly how it is now, and I'm completely on board with that. Now, if I say that to you, right? If I say 5 years from now, everything is exactly like now, and you're completely fine with that, what's your first response?
Yeah, I mean, now I am, but yeah, for the most part of my life, that would be a really hard pill to swallow. The first thing would be this immediate reaction of no, that cannot possibly be, because the first thing that the mind does is go to everything that's wrong with what is happening right now. It's not, okay, I'd be happy I have enough to eat right now, or I have, I can afford to do, basic things. That's not what comes up. It's every possible negative thing in your life, whether it's a really huge thing or just something super, super tiny. That's the first thing that the mind does, is just create a list of all the things that cannot possibly stay this way. And then it's just an immediate emotional reaction to it that, oh hell no.
Yeah.
No.
And another thing that I also find really relevant is also that part of like we talked about in the other 2 lessons, or in the first lesson, that we think that we have a choice. We think that we can, that we have the option of choosing something different than what is right now. We think that there is something else, and that, first of all, that we can choose and do something. So what is now is not then, but will be different. And I have agency to change that and to make it different.
I think that's the thing, is that, we have this double-edged sword of imagination. And it's so great because we can create fantastical worlds and stories and all these things, but it also gives us a list of all the possibilities of what could be. And we forget that fantasy and imagination is just fantasy and imagination, and we take it to be reality. That even if we're coming up with it in our mind right now, we think it's definitely a possibility for my life. Well, yeah, okay, I could totally become a multi-billionaire. All I have to do is just decide I'm going to do it. And, you're the next Elon Musk. Who can't? It's so easy. But it's because it's the same thing that all of our thoughts are based around. It's all imagination. And some of our thoughts feel really real in the moment because they're actually tied in with things in our actual environment. And some of them are about, interstellar space travel that we cannot physically do. But it's very hard to distinguish between the two. And especially when it comes to things that seem like we really don't want that right now. The mind will use anything it can to escape, including some really far out fantasies, and some fantasies that seem not so far out, which makes them even all the more sticky. So if it's just like, yeah, I want a new job. Okay, great. That seems attainable. But we then get caught up into, well, that can be a reality, and that has to be my reality. And if it's not my reality right now, there's something really, really wrong with my reality right now. And then it just becomes this self-defeating cycle of misery, that things are not the way that our fantasy life is portrayed.
Yeah, and that actually leads me into the next point, which is that you know, whenever we want something, there's a diversion from what actually is. And we have this idea that when we are in the fantasy land of me wanting another job, and what's wrong with wanting another job? I mean, that's only good that I want, you know, promotion, and I'm working towards that, and I'm goal oriented towards all that. But right that in the moment when you have that fantasy about the future, how great it's going to be with that new job, you're not here. You're not here. And that's one of the big traps that the ego does, that any thought you have, it's always about something, and it's always either about the future, something that you want to be different in the future, or is rumination about the past. And when we're there, we're not here. And then we have this idea that just because we can think and be in the future with the thought, that we can create the now to be different, which we obviously can't. No. We obviously can't. Can you say something about that? Because I talked about that on end, about that the now can't be any different.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds almost too obvious, but it literally is not. Like I mean, the fact that your current experience is the way that it is just a fact that it is the way it is. And if we're taking each moment as it's experienced, there is no, it's so hard to point around, because it's just like this really base fact of, there is no elephant sitting in this room, so there's no elephant sitting in this room. It's not to say that the elephant, or that the room is always going to be elephantless. I don't know. Maybe wormhole opens up, elephant drops out of the sky into the room. We don't know. But ultimately, right now,
that was such a bad example.
That
was like the worst example you could pick up. Of all the things that could drop out of a wormhole, you choose an elephant.
How do we don't know nothing about wormholes? That could be like the best possible example. The only thing that comes out of wormholes are elephants. We just don't know this yet.
We don't.
Right?
We don't. Humble. Be humble. Stay humble.
Humble. No, but it's just the fact that whatever is here is what's here, and whatever is not here is not here. And it's always been that way. It just, we look at from the past, you know, we have this memory that goes in catalogs, and it says, okay, well, things that were here before are not here now. So that means that there are going to be things in the future that are here that aren't here now. And so we project, well, okay, now I want something else that's not here. And instead of looking at it like, I didn't expect to be here sitting on this couch 10 years ago. I didn't project that that was going to happen. There's no way to know what that thing that is going to be here at some other now is, but we get the idea that we can manipulate that, and that we can make that happen. We can reach out for that thing and then bring it here.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. It's also something we talked about yesterday, the part that the now that we have now, we had this idea that when we look back in the past, that we're very lenient. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't know any better then when I made the choices that I did. I didn't know any better. Now I know better. So therefore I really should, you know, do better now than what I did then when I didn't know it. But there's no difference. There's no difference in the then that you didn't, at that then when you didn't know. This is a then where you don't know. So it's like it's that complete mind fart that we're making.
It's basically the hubris of our position of being able to access excuse me, to access memory that we, take as being real. I mean, we don't even know that our memories are accurate.
Yeah.
They're
We,
not.
no, we know our
We know
memories are not,
things are not
yeah.
accurate, but we don't, even the part of them that we take. Well, I know that I was really,
Yeah.
in Little League at whatever,
Yeah.
we don't really know. But even if we took that to be the case, we still then are using that in a false way to assume that we can do something with that, and then assume what's coming next, and then in some way make that happen.
Yeah. And that leads to the next part of this pointer, where it's 5 years from now. Um, it's such a it's such a tricky pointer, because it pretends that there is a future, which there obviously isn't. Can you say something about that? Because I've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, I'm. I have an issue with the time thing, because I stay agnostic to a lot of things, right? We've talked about this, and I'm not comfortable saying what is not. The only thing we can really talk about practically is our experience. And our experience of time usually has one of two different experiences. One is that we experience ourselves as a narrative creature flowing through time from the time that we were born up until the time that we die. But that's an experience which is largely created by thought, memory, and again, fantasy about a future that's not here. When you actually get rid of those thoughts and come back to the actual experience of what's here, there is no perception of time whatsoever. There is no way that time feels like it moves. This here feels like it has always been here, unless I have a memory. If I had, absolute amnesia and just woke up right now, I would have no clue that this moment has not always happened. It's purely a product of our memory that makes that into a possibility. And it's purely a product of our fantasy that makes us be able to think that there is anything coming after this moment. We could snuff out just like that as well. So the actual perception of time is just a constant moment, a constant, excuse me, eternal now. We've talked about, from the scientific standpoint, where, there's the theory of the loaf theory of block time, where everything that has ever happened has all happened all at once.
Go into that. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating thing, and
it's completely how I how I see it.
Yeah,
completely how I experience, and my experience with time, and how I understand it, and in my experience how time is. So go on.
Yeah, well, basically, in short, it's that everything that has ever happened and ever will happen in the universe all happened basically at the same time, and you have this block of space time where everything just is. And
it's what I call the one-pointedness, but we don't really talk about that until the 7th Fetter. It's just for all of you where I have talked about it, and I talk about the 1 point. That's the loaf.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, and you can look up. I don't know if you actually. We could always post the link to. There's a really fascinating clip on YouTube that talks about this briefly with Brian Greene, and they do a nice graphic of it. But they show that basically it's based on movement at a distance. What can be your now for an alien a couple 100 billion light years away, moving either towards or away from you, will make it so that your now is actually where your now for them, if they were able to see you from where they are, their perception of your now could be 200 years in your past or 200 years in your future, which means if I'm sitting here now and there's another creature across the universe who's able to see 200 years into my future, that means that future is currently happening now. There's no, likewise the past, that the past is still accessible to, at a far enough distance to be able to see that.
Just like when we look at the closest, what is it, galaxy that is 25,000 light years away, that 25,000 years ago, if they were looking at us and it's 25,000, then it's Stone Age. It's like
and that it's interesting because there's the combination thing of the time that it takes for light to actually travel that, but also the idea that space itself, or excuse me, that time itself is relative based on motion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's just, I feel like we don't have enough knowledge about it to even really talk about it, other than, again, our experiences of it. And, you know, I don't think you're going to get into the seventh Fetter stuff about, you know.
No, we wait with that until the seventh Fetter.
Yeah.
But the whole point being that there is no time. There is the now, right now. And now that, when I said that, remember back when I said that in the past, that's already the past. It's already gone.
Yeah.
Which means that when we talk about the pointer, about that everything right now is exactly like this in 5 years from now, it can't be any different, because this is all there is. This is 5 years from now.
Yeah.
You know, the 5 years from now is just an imagined future that is not here. The only thing that we actually know is here right now is the right now.
Exactly. And there's something that I think is also important about this, which I don't know if it gives away too much or whatever, but it's the idea that if we talk about something that I don't want to be here now, you know, I have leg pain, and if you ask me in 5 years, are you going to be okay with still having that same leg pain? I'm going to say hell no, because I'm picturing 5 years of constant leg pain.
Yeah.
That it has been going on, you know, it's not that it's here, then it goes away for 5 years, and then 5 years I wake up and it comes back. It's the idea that I'm going to endure that every minute and every second for the next 5 years. And the projection of that is unbearable.
Yeah.
That's what we're rebelling against.
Yeah.
In fact, though, as we talk about a lot, every time we endure anything, it's only for that one instant.
Yeah, it's only a now.
It's only a now. And we don't know, you know, from the other side of it, we have no idea what's going to happen in the next now. Even projecting that it might not, but it's the idea that we put on top of that. That is,
it's a super important point, and it's also one of the things that I talk about in the second lesson, that you don't need to endure with pain for the next 5 years. You only need to endure with pain right now. It's just this right now. And is it possible for you right now to be with whatever is right now? And that's all you need to be with. And that's also why I really love, you know, doing inquiry, that when we have that hell no, you know, I have so much headache, I don't want headache right now, I don't want headache, then it's just that, but can you be in a body right now where this is what it is? Because you can't argue with reality.
right.
If you have a headache right now, you have a headache right now. There's nothing, there's no debate going on at all, except the resistance you have to what actually is.
Which ironically doubles, triples, quadruples the actual pain of the headache.
Yeah. Yeah, because we start to imagine all the things that we don't want with this headache.
Of course. I mean, the headache, it could be brain tumor, it could be, you know, I could be having an aneurysm, it might never go away. Maybe, you know, I might have this headache for the next year. Maybe it's going to, you know, so we have all the possibilities of what might be, what it might become, and then all the resistance to it. And if anybody who's had pain, which I think most people have had pain, knows that you really, right? Have we not all had pain? No, but you realize
so cheesy.
It was so but realistically, so
really? But now we should have
tell me more. No, but really, like if you've had pain, you know, you fight against it in physically. There's like a physical, if you have a pain in your head, there's tension elsewhere in the body seizing up against that. And that all just multiplies into your experience of a headache as being really unbearable, because you're really tensed up elsewhere in the body.
And then all the add-ons come, then all the thoughts, but what about tomorrow, and what now I can't, you know, do the things that I wanted to do, and what about the kids and all that all those thoughts come. But
sorry, I'm still laughing at you. Sorry.
But then what we do, the practical application of it, what we do is then that the pain that you have, or whatever you're sitting with that you don't want right now, then could you stop laughing?
No, I really can't. I'm sorry. Sorry. Come on.
the pain that you have, or whatever you're sitting with right now, that the first thing you need to be aware of is how much of it is thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
How much is actual pain and how much is thought added onto it. Because we in the 3 inquiries that we have for the 4th fetter, we also look into that part where something is as it is, and then you look into what thoughts are attached to. So let's say the headache, you have a headache, what thoughts are attached to that headache, and then you remove the thoughts and you just sit with the sensory experience, and then you're going to realize that the headache that you have, it's actually not a headache. It's a sensation that is doing something, but when we have the label attached to it, it feels like a headache, and that is very static. But nothing in the body is ever static. So when you remove the label and you allow whatever is going on here to be as it is, you will start to feel that it's actually moving, and it's changing, and there's never a sensation in the body that stays the same all the time. Never ever. The blood flow happening, the different receptors that are picking up on different things, there are biochemical messages that are being given around, and that you start to feel into, which means that what you thought was a headache with the label on, when you remove the label, it's something completely different. And that you can actually have a curiosity to. You can actually look into, okay, what is the advantage with this sensation going on right now? What is the advantage with it? What is it that I'm actually gaining, right now that I wouldn't have? And that can be a million things. What I have tried when I had my Addison, I've been in so much pain with Addison. And what I found out was that there was different things that was, for example, when I had so much pain that I couldn't move. Well, if I can't move anywhere, so what can I do? What is the benefit of not being able to move? Well, that is a very, very direct experience of just being here, not moving anywhere, not going anywhere, not even in my mind going anywhere, because there was just so much pain right now. And that gives it has benefits and gifts in it. And I'm not talking about that woo-woo. I'm really talking, it really gives you insights when you remove the label of it. And it's the same if you have any kind of chronic disease, if you have cancer, if you have anything like that. If you remove the thought about it and all the fear about it, then there is something going on right now that you're not aware of, that you're not focusing on. You're focusing on the label and not on what is actually happening.
Yeah, it's really about changing your entire perspective on your experiences. We usually come at it from a victim perspective of, oh, I didn't want this headache, I didn't choose it, so it shouldn't be here, I shouldn't have this pain, or whatever it is. And that puts us in the victim position, as opposed to being the curious scientist or the
anthropologist,
or the curious child that's just, well, what is this? And then, as you put it, it's so useful to look at what is the benefit of this in this moment, because you can turn anything around for its positive. And it's just reframing your way of looking at all the experiences, recognizing that your experience is 100% you. I mean, it's 100% coming out of this same projection. So there's absolutely no reason why anything has to be experienced just one way. You always have the opportunity and the option to completely look at it from a different direction, and then see what is there for you.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you.
You are.
Okay, the second pointer. Should I just stop and see if it's recording?
It says it's recording.
Yeah, but with sound.
Oh, maybe.
Or should we just...
Well, is it? Yeah, the little sound thing
is going on.
So I think we're good.
Let's continue.
Okay.
I was just thinking, if you're sitting now for 3 hours and talking.
I know. You can stop it and redo another one if you want.
No.
Okay.
Second pointer.
Okay, now you have me paranoid that it's like not recording with sound.
You said it was working.
It shows that it's working.
Yeah,
it says it's working. Okay.
You said all of it is on you now.
Oh God, no.
A fixation on another person or thing.
What? Fixation on another Persian?
A person.
That's very specific. That's a little specific.
Only about Persians.
Only about Persians.
A fixation. You can read it then.
Actually, let's stop it for a minute because I could really use a drink. I'm super, super thirsty. Can we pause it
Do we
or
have
stop
water?
it? We're using that as a computer stand, as a phone stand. And I'm like maybe thirstier than that. Can we get a bottle? No.
You can go.
No, no.
Let me get
Just
you
stay
a
right
bottle.
where you are. No, stay right where you are because otherwise we're gonna lose our perfect position. But you can stop it and then we'll
I'm not stopping it.
okay, you're not stopping it?
I'm just editing afterwards. And we're back.
And we're back.
You read the second.
It's up to you. You can rate them for consistency if you want.
A fixation on another person or thing is never about that person or thing. So what is it about? And this one is if we just, I was just about to walk into the fifth fetter. But if we just stay with the fourth fetter, so it's about something that you want. So a fixation on a thing that you want.
Do you want to go with like a new relationship? You know, somebody that you're interested in?
Mm.
Is that a good one?
Yeah, go on.
You go. And go.
Well, it's a bit the same thing, that we have this idea. We have this idea that that something that is right now, it's not like I want it. I want something else. So this relationship here is not how I want it. I want something else, and that something else is gonna improve something that is not here right now.
Yeah, there's something that's missing that person can add to my life.
Yeah.
If there's something that's really unsatisfactory right now.
Yeah.
But that person will take it away.
Yeah. And that's both if you are in a relationship and you want something else, or if you're not in a relationship and you want a relationship.
Yeah, you hear that so much with people who are not in a relationship particularly, and they really think that the key to solve all of their problems is to just have somebody else in their life.
Yeah.
And for so many people that just runs into disaster because they're not in a place where they're comfortable with whatever is, and then being in a relationship, bringing the complications of having another person in your world can just really make it so now you have double the things that you don't want in your life, and it just becomes an utter train wreck. Should I go into marriage counseling? Is this my we're gonna go like
don't do it.
I'm gonna become a matchmaker from there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but it is true though that there's and what happens every time is that all the things that you don't want is just going to be dialed up. It's like we have this idea that everything that is perfect right now is going to be maintained perfect. Yep. And then if I only have a puppy, and then everything's going to be great. And then everything that is a disaster right now is also a disaster then. And now you also have a puppy that pees everywhere.
Yeah, and you're getting up at 3 a.m. to walk the puppy. Yeah. And yeah, now all of a sudden you're sleep deprived on top of it, which makes everything else seem even worse.
Even worse.
Yeah.
But we have it is what you talked about, that in the future projection of things, that we have that fantasy about what it's going to be. I talk a lot about that in the foundational fetters, in the first 3 fetters, that everything that is happening in the future, it's just a fantasy. It's just a fantasy. That there's nothing there, and yet you can use it, because you can if you really focus on what it is. So you obviously know it's not the other person, and it's not the puppy, it's not the promotion, it's not the Tesla, it's not all of that. It's not that what is doing it, but you're projecting something into it. There's something now about this situation or you that you don't want, and therefore you project a bright future where this is not there anymore, but something else, and that is useful. Yeah. That pointer is super useful. And it's really excuse me, the important thing is to get really clear on what it is that is missing, because a lot of times what we feel like is that excuse me, is that you know, there's something, and you might not even be able to put your finger on it, or oftentimes you put it on the wrong thing. That, you know, well, no, I'm just, you know,
I just want to have somebody to watch TV with, you know, and so that's all it is. I want that companionship of just somebody to hang out with,
Mm.
which is great, but it's really not the real issue that's underneath it. It's really coming down to why you don't feel okay watching TV by yourself.
Yeah.
What it is that's missing in that situation on a deeper level than just the, you know, the very surface thing that we say that we want. You know,
Mm.
it's like how you say time and money, that, you know, those are
Yeah.
things that people
Yeah.
talk about because you don't want to talk about what's underneath it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with this, that a lot of it is what it's easy to talk to people about. Yeah, you know, I want somebody to go to concerts with, or I just, you know,
Mm.
yeah, it's just nice to sit on the back, you know, the back porch and talk to somebody and all that. And that sounds really, yeah, I get that, I get that. But
Mm.
what is it that's below that, that's actually driving that sort of need for something else that's not here right now?
Yeah.
And addressing that is the important thing.
Back when I had my groups in Denmark, one of the I always gave them assignments, and one of the assignments I gave them was to go to the movie theater alone and not buy popcorn, not do anything, but just go in, buy one ticket, and go in and sit and choose like a love story or something like that, where everybody in the movie theater are two people. And some people don't have an issue with it. It's just like going to a movie theater. Great, I do that. And for other people, it was really, really complicated. It was really, really difficult. And there was one woman where she talked about that she felt so shameful about going in there, and everybody could see she was alone. Everybody saw how pathetic she was, that nobody wanted her. Nobody wanted to go to the movie theater with her. She had to go alone. And obviously that was, you know, great to become aware of. She was not aware that that was lying underneath, that she saw herself as pathetic, because as you know by now, everything you say, it's just a mirror, you know. So she thinks that she thought that she was pathetic, and she thought that she was, you know, sad, and really became aware of that shame. And it's the same if you go to a restaurant and you eat alone, or you go to a cafe and sit alone. Most people that do that sit with a book to divert from the fact that they're actually sitting alone, and how does it feel to do this alone. We have this idea of 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 always having to be, yeah, with someone to kind of like show to the world, prove to the world how liked we are,
Yeah.
which is completely bizarre.
Yes.
Nobody, you're not on anybody's radar.
Uh-huh.
Nobody,
Completely.
nobody's thinking about you at all.
Completely.
Nobody's going home and thinking, I looked at that person sitting alone at that cafe. Wonder what was going on there.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole idea why people have trophy wives and trophy husbands and all that, is because they think everybody is judging them based on who they're with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am worthy of other people's respect because I was able to get this person to like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just shows really how ego pointed everything is.
Yeah.
In that,
Exactly. It's so selfing.
Yeah.
It's so selfing. And it's but it's this pointer is pointing, you know, in a direction for you to become aware of what is it that is underneath. What is it you think that person or that thing
Yeah.
can provide you, so you avoid looking at that over there or underneath, you know.
Yeah.
Because it is just aversions. You're picking a partner to divert from something underneath that you don't want to look for, and that makes you the worst partner in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it really comes down to feeling into yourself of what do you need that's not here right now, and being very, very honest about it.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of honesty and courage to do this sort of thing, because you might find things about yourself that you're not really comfortable acknowledging.
Yeah.
Um,
So if somebody now is sitting and looking into this and finding that whatever was there underneath, it's so uncomfortable and it's so icky, and it's they really, really, really don't want to be with it.
Yeah.
Could we do like a super quick inquiry? There are the 3 inquiries with the first lesson in the 4th Fetter, which I can recommend you to listen to. And they're really, really good. But if we say that somebody's here right now and just realized that, oh my goodness, I thought that I really wanted that or that person or something like that, but now I realized it's not about that. It's a very, very icky sensation, you know, fear, anger, guilt, or shame, something underneath. it's my entire starting point that is like this. What would you recommend?
Yeah. So in short, we're going to sit there with it, and it can be uncomfortable when we start to sit in the gap and sit with that ickiness. But do it for, a few seconds at a time, even to start with. And one of the things that we want to recognize are what your initial reactions to that are. So it might be the thought of, oh, if I had that girlfriend, this wouldn't be here right now. Or, oh, I really, could go for a candy bar because, that would divert. And so every time you notice yourself going to a diversion of some sort, whether it's a thought or actually physically getting up to do something, just come back to that ickiness, come back to that sensation that's there, bring up that feeling of the unworthiness, or the that sort of sensation that comes up if you think, nobody loves me, I'm unlovable, right? And then just sit with that sensation. And if tears come out, let whatever is there be. But then once you get comfortable kind of sitting with that sensation, you can, well, if we went through the whole step, the first thing you're going to discover, you have all these thoughts about it overlaying it, that it's not just a sensation, it's an unlovability. And recognize that unlovability is a concept that you have.
It's just a thought.
It's just a thought. It's something that you have come up with, that you have overlaid onto these physical sensations in the body, and decided that this is a feeling of unlovability. And this is a conviction that I have, that as long as I feel this, I'm unlovable, and, life is hopeless. And so remove that thought, let it just kind of fall off, and come back to the sensations in the body, come back to what is physically there right in that moment. See if they're as unbearable as you really expected them to be without the thought attached. Get curious about exactly where in the body they're showing up, exactly how intense they are. Are they moving around? Are they changing? And then recognize, if you're sitting with those, if there's a pull to do something else about it. Is there a pull away from those things to, again, going and getting a candy bar, more thoughts proliferating about, no, I really, really need this. It's absolutely true. And just keep coming back to that sensation, and recognize if you can find any sort of a bridge between there and a reason why you need this thing. What is the connection between a physical sensation in the body and another person entering your life and sitting next to you on the couch? How are those two things related? Can you find a way that they're connected? Can you just be with sensation just as it is? And does that mean anything else? Does that have to mean anything else? And
because there's no connection. There's no connection.
But you have to find it. You have to really look for it. Like really pretend that you might find it, so that you can really prove to yourself, because it's really easy to use that to just bypass also and be like, okay, this feels crappy. I know there's no connection. Ugh, all right, I'm done. And then you just get up and I'm done with it now. I'm going to go divert. And so make sure that you're really being honest with your sensations and really sitting with it and getting into it. And then also really looking for, how is that connection possible? How is it possible for a physical connection in the physical sensation in the body to connect to something in your external world?
Yeah, because we project a lot to the outside, and it's never anything outside. It's always inside. There is only inside. It's another point that I think we're gonna circle back to a lot of times. It's that idea that a want is real. That what I want is real. The cupcake is real. The new partner is real. That is something I want. It's not. It's just a thought.
It's a thought.
It's a thought. And it's something about...
And it's an idealized thought. It is the best cupcake you have ever had and ever will have. And it is
best partner you have ever met.
Absolutely perfect. Flawless.
Yeah.
Absolutely flawless. There's going to be no friction in that relationship whatsoever. No.
And it's going to be all cupcakes.
Yep. All cupcakes. All cupcakes. And they're all the best cupcakes.
Best cupcakes.
Yeah. Go on. Sorry, I was...
No, because that's the whole point. That's the whole point. that there is no partner out there. There's no cupcakes. It's just that ideal. It's just a thought about a cupcake or a thought about a partner. It's not even them.
No.
It's not even the cupcake.
No.
It's just a thought about it. And that's enough for us to get that. Oh.
Yeah. And then, like you just said, I want that thing. What is that want? And that's really the crux of it, is really investigating, what does it even feel like to want something? What is that? Because we take that to be something as basic as, water and food. Like, well, of course, I want something. I know what it is to want. It's a real thing. Is it?
Yeah.
Really,
really good. You
really
should make an inquiry about that.
Yeah,
no, really should.
But really feel into the experience of when you think you want something, where in the body do you feel it? Get very specific on that. What, and again, just like I said, but it's a slightly rephrasing of it. It's hard to rephrase that, but if you have this experience in the body that we take to be a want, how does that experience in the body connect with anything else in a way that tells us that there is something called wanting, that there is something, there's a sensation in the body and there's a thought. How do those two things come together to create what we call wanting something? And how is that experienced, and is it real? Do you break it down like we do every other emotion and everything else to discover if there really is even such a thing as wanting underneath the entire
yeah, it's the same thing as with the headache that we had just before, that we have that label on it that is like fixating. This is a want. I want a cupcake. I want a cupcake, and that is a label. When you remove the label and you experience how does it actually feel in the body, you will feel that there's no such thing. That there's different sensations in the body that are changing, but there's none of them that has like a cupcake feeling. There's not like a certain feeling in the body that's only for cupcakes.
Oh, that's my cupcake magnet right there. That's I just gotta I know when I feel that right there, that's a cupcake. No, it's no. But be curious, because you might feel might feel like a tension, it might feel like a magnetic sensation or some sort of a pull, something, but get really curious about that. And what is it, and why is it really there? Is it covering something else?
That was actually the next point that I wanted really to dive into. I really wanted to look into what is it that it's supposed to cover. What is it that you are avoiding to experience? Because it's the cupcake. It's never about the cupcake. It's never about the cupcake.
Cupcake's not that great. Realistically,
like Lisa said, the first bite,
the
rest are not.
The rest.
So it's what is it that you expect that is gonna go away if you just have that cupcake? What feeling is it? What is it that you are avoiding if you just have that cupcake?
And I would say also notice if you do have the cupcake. Recognize
but because it's not about that.
Right.
It's super important. So not about that. It's not about you not eating the cupcake.
Right.
No.
So go ahead and have the cupcake, but notice what changed. Did something really go away? Is there something still there? Did the cupcake really work? Or was the cupcake just a temporary diversion from something that you didn't want to be there? And so, we kind of get that like, oh, okay, that's good. And then I'm off on this other thing. But if you get really curious about your experience, there's going to be something underneath there that cupcake did not take away.
So now you're high on sugar and still feel like shit.
Yeah, exactly. So be really curious about that. We might have, depending on the thing, because a lot of times too, part of what makes things like that seem so enticing is because there's a certain guilt factor or taboo factor put on top of it. So you might ironically divert first with a cupcake and then divert with the judgment about yourself for having indulged with the cupcake. So we're very clever about keeping ourselves from feeling the things that are really underneath that we don't want to feel, even if those things that are diverting from those things are still themselves not comfortable. Like feeling the self-judgment for eating a cupcake is not comfortable, but it might be less uncomfortable than the thing that's underneath it.
Exactly. And if the judgment underneath about me being a horrendous person, I mean, that judgment is so much bigger than me eating the cupcake. So I'd rather want to go with that judgment than the other one.
Absolutely.
Third pointer.
Yes.
What is it that I think can be improved, and can it? And we had touched a bit about it.
We have.
Yeah, we'll touch a bit about it, that it is that really, really looking into fear, anger, guilt, and shame. Really, really looking into the starting point. What is it that I believe about me and the world from the get-go, on every single bloody get-go, from all the time, that I believe is in a certain way? What is the underlying belief about? So what is it that I'm trying to avoid getting in contact with? What is it I think that I can improve in any way? If I just do, then it's going to be improved. Then I'm not going to feel, shameful or fearful or full of anger or resentment or any of that, if I just have the other partner or have the cupcake or whatever.
Yeah, I would say if we take like a really common example of this is, what do I think can be improved? My bank account. Everybody has like financial issues that like you can always have more money. You never have enough money. And so looking into what is underneath that drive to have more money. And there are cases where people legitimately are, paycheck to paycheck and that sort of thing. And there's no, not undercutting, certain realities about these things. But what's underneath that is a fear that is pushing us to be, because there's a fear of all of the things that come from not having enough money. And so the push to have it isn't necessarily just because you want more numbers, higher numbers in the bank account make me feel good. Well, it's not really that. It's that there's an assumption that higher numbers in the bank account equal more security, which means less fear and about, overall safety in life.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's super interesting. I spoke with somebody that said that that he was buying the lotto every week, and the best part about it was actually buying it, because in that there was that dream about what would happen when the 48 million is finally his, when he's finally that feeling of freedom, and that all the good things that he would do for his family and his loved ones, and all the things that he would change, and all the charities he would support. And so it was really, it wasn't selfish in that sense. It was really beautiful and wonderful, all the things he wanted, but it was a diversion.
Absolutely.
It was a weekly diversion that broke on the day when the lots of numbers was mentioned, and then he would go straight down and buy a new one, so he could stay in that dream world, that dreamscape.
In a way, it's kind of related. I had read a study years ago that we actually get more enjoyment out of planning a trip than actually going on the trip. So there's the fantasy element of it, because everything is perfect, and we can really get this thrill of planning, and we're fully invested in this fantasy world.
Let's drive through Europe with the kids in the back seat, and they're gonna sit and look out. It's gonna be so lovely, and we're gonna stop and have pizza in Italy, and we're gonna have beer in Germany. It's gonna be great with the kids. And let's bring the dogs. Let's bring the dogs. It's gonna be amazing. Run around in the field. It's gonna be beautiful.
Yeah,
I could just see.
Probably not really going to play out. I
completely get that. It's so much better in the fantasy.
It is. And so I think it's the same sort of thing, like with buying the lottery. It gives you that license to, okay, now I have the possibility. I didn't have a possibility of $100 million before. Now I have the possibility. So now that imagination can really run wild with, it's really in my grasp. Literally, I have a ticket where this could literally happen. And now I am just free to let the fantasy go. And then the fantasies seem very, very real, and as you said, a great diversion from whatever it is that we're feeling that we don't want to be feeling.
Yeah, because in all that time when you're fantasizing about the 100 million in the lotto, or the 48 million, or the car trip through Europe, or whatever it is, when you're fantasizing, you're not here. You're not here. And there's something here that is so unbearable.
Absolutely.
That really just need your attention. And it's not that's also important to say, that it's not that you should sit and wallow in misery And that's what we're, do not buy the lotto, stay sad.
Stay sad.
Stay sad. It's not what we're going for. It's more that, you know, when you decide not to buy the lotto, then take a minute where you know, you close your eyes and then look into what is it that you just got deprived from. What is it that you're now stuck with? And then again, remove the thoughts about it and then see, how does it feel to be in the body that is now being deprived from happiness or anything of the things that you project into it. What is it now that you're stuck with? But don't just make it into an intellectual thought experiment where you think about it. I really want you to feel how it feels in the body, because that's the part that we always skip, that we also in therapy, that we just talk about, oh, it's about sadness. It's about sadness. Okay. Time is up. It was about sadness. Yeah. I know now it's about sadness. Yeah. Good now. Into your body and feel it. And the thing is that we have this idea that if we give into that, let's say, sadness, that it's gonna overtake everything. I'm gonna be sad all the time. But we're not. We're not. You can only maintain a feeling if you keep adding a thought to it. Absolutely. A feeling is nothing. A feeling is a sensation in the body with a thought attached to it. So if you detach the thought, then you're just sitting with a feeling of sadness, and there's not even the label on calling it sadness. It's just now to make clear what it is I'm talking about, that you just sit with that sensation in the body and allow it to be there and see, where does this take me? What does this remind me of? What is it that is so unbearable with this? Can I be with it right now? And the sensation in the body never stays the same. It's like 7 seconds or something ridiculous that it stays the same, and then it starts to move and be different. And then you're going to realize that this thing that you thought was sadness, it's not sadness at all. It's a slight nausea. It's a clammy hands. It's something completely different. And then see where it takes you. Yeah. See where it takes you. Really get into the body, into the feeling. How does it feel to be in a body without a lotto ticket, with the sensation? How does that feel? And then just explore that. Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's even good. Even if you haven't bought a lotto ticket, you do that thought experiment and then trigger, you know, think of all the things that you would do if you won $100 million, and then think that you have it, and then, okay, now I don't, and then see what has changed in that, and feel into that. Make an inquiry about that. Thank you. Fourth pointer. What I want or what I don't want is not about what I think it is about. So what is it about? And we have talked about that a lot. I think we have covered that. I think so. I think we've covered that. Really getting under, it's just about getting underneath the root and being really, really brutally honest with yourself that what the first things that come up that you think are probably what you want. It's not it. No, you have to go deeper, and you have to really. And it might even be the next thing that you then think that you want. It's not that either. That. No, it's still not that. Yeah. There's something underneath that is. There's a feeling in the body that has been rejected and been pushed aside and not been looked at and not been experienced, that you have pushed aside and avoided. That is what needs your attention, and then just stay with that feeling in the body, not for it to go away. That's also super important. That we're not doing this for anything to go away or be any different, since it can't. It's just allowing it to be there. Yeah. Yeah, I think we've covered that. We've covered that. Okay. Fifth pointer. What belief is creating the want and the don't want? And the second part of it is, who is creating the want and the don't want? So, but let's really split it up, because for a lot of people, when you see this fifth pointer, you go straight to the bypassing. There is no I. Move on to the sixth. Yeah. So the first part of it is what belief, and that is important, because that belief, that is the starting point. That is what you wake up with every morning. The first thought you have in the morning is usually giving you a very good indication of what is your underlying belief. is your first thought about all the responsibility on your shoulders, and you're so exhausted and you just need, to fight through the day? Or is it about, oh my goodness, I haven't got time for all the things? Or is it, fear, anger, guilt, and shame? You pick.
Dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice.
Pick your favorite.
And you can pick multiple if you feel like it. Why limit yourself?
Right.
So it's really, really about discovering that belief, because the thing about the starting point is that it is the starting point. It's what we have with us when we wake up in the morning, when we drive to work and somebody cuts us off in traffic. It's when somebody comes to your cart and steal your cucumber. It's the way that the neighbor's dog is barking. It's your starting point is there all the time with you, and it's very, very clear what it is, what that underlying belief is. And the whole the whole point with this pointer is to become aware of what it is and seeing it for what it is. It's just a belief. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. There is no such thing as fear, anger, guilt, and shame. It's just a thought. But you need to, I just want to say that in parentheses, that you need to allow, if you have trauma, go back to the second Fetter, work with it, so you really become aware of what is that fear, anger, guilt, and shame. Where did it originate? Can you be in a body where it is? Can you be in a life where it is? So you're not trying for it to go away, but you're just, allowing it to be there, be in the body, feel it, speak with your guide, speak with, you come to the groups, and talk about it. But it's very much about becoming aware of that belief.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's why, I think the really interesting thing is noticing if you have found it, is noticing all the ways that it shows up in your daily life. And so if you react a certain way when somebody takes the cucumber out of your shopping cart, there's a reason why you're doing that and the person next to you would not do that. There's something specific about your experience and your belief that is making it so that you react one way when something happens. There's why you can be watching a commercial on television and then all of a sudden you start crying. There's something there that is touching into something much, much deeper than just what is being said on the surface. And I think the more you become aware of all of the little tendrils creeping out from that starting point, and that basic fundamental belief that there is something wrong with you in some way, or that the world is dangerous, or that, whatever it is that's
you need to defend yourself.
You have to defend yourself,
stand up for yourself, have strong boundaries, all that.
It comes from you'll start to see how it's pulling the levers and absolutely controlling every aspect of your life. And then this becomes a very obvious, just one of those things. It's just yet one more way in which this is manipulating the experience and basically filtering the experience so that it's seen.
Super good point.
Thank you. So that it's seen a certain way, because really somebody taking a cucumber out of your shopping cart, it's a completely neutral act. Basically, there's nothing behind that beyond what you put into it. Maybe the person was taking it out because they were going to put a better one in for you. You have no idea. But if you immediately react to it, then there's something in you that's there. And I know we're more in fifth Fetter when we're talking about that kind of reaction, but it's the same kind of idea that all of these things are tying into the same basic starting point. And so get really curious about why it is that you are feeling like you need a cupcake or a partner sitting next to you watching TV, or to win $1 million, or whatever the thing is, because all of those are touching to that same fundamental starting point of something being wrong that could be fixed by this other appearance, this new appearance in your life.
And then the second part of it, who is creating the want and the don't want?
No, we covered that. We know that. We can just move on. Yeah, no, it's an interesting part of, once you get past the first three, that there's we say all well, the first 8 fetters anyway are specifically about identification, just to gradually more subtle degrees. but there's still identification in 4 and 5 because you're still positing there's something out there that I want,
That
or
I,
that I want,
yeah.
and that there's something here that I don't want. And so I'm either pulling something towards me or pushing something away from me.
Yeah.
And so it's setting up that duality of me versus something else, or me plus something
Yeah.
else. And even though, you know, we go through the first fetter, we've seen that there's no self, there's still an acting from that center where it feels at times as though there is still a self there, because there is still this kind of pushing and pulling, and it's a more subtle feeling maybe, and you could say that it's not being believed the way it was, but there's still something there that is directing the behavior in a way that is very, very much in the line of selfing. And so if you get back, it's almost like coming back to first fetter inquiry,
Yes,
in a way
it is.
that
It is.
you are looking again, what is it, who is it that really wants that cupcake?
Yeah.
Who is it?
But it's all, yeah, and it's also why it's so important with the fourth and the fifth fetter to really acknowledge that it is selfing.
Yeah.
You know, it's so super manipulative. You know, I am not okay. That is gonna make me okay.
Yeah.
You know, you're not supposed to talk like that. I'm now gonna manipulate you into talking in a way so I feel better. It's super, super selfing.
And it's even to the extent where it's positing, you know, supposedly when you see through the first, you have seen through the concept of a narrative self that is consistent over time. And yet the very idea of not wanting something to be the same in 5 years, or wanting to feel better when I eat that cupcake in 5 minutes, that's all positing that there is a narrative self here who is uncomfortable, and in 5 minutes will feel so much better after ingesting a cupcake.
Yeah.
And so it's more subtle. You might not have the same explicit feeling in the head or wherever it was that you felt like, oh, well, this is a little homunculus in the brain that's driving the body, and this is me. You could see through that, but notice that in the behavior, there is still so much of that positing of a time traveling being who's going from point A to point B, who is collecting things to make their journey better for them, or, you know, rejecting things that are making their journey more difficult. It's still selfing, just in a little bit more,
just looking much more advanced.
Which makes it a little bit more insidious in a way, because it's really easy to just bypass and say, no, I've already seen there's no self there. I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to look at that.
I just get reactions. It's completely fine.
Exactly.
I'm completely fine afterwards.
I just throw a chair across the room. Everything is okay. It just lets it out, and then it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's absurd, but it's so easy to fall into that trap. And you hear so many people who do it.
Yeah. And it is. You go first. You go first, E.T. You go first.
No, just that. Well, now I've forgotten what it was. No, it's that. Oh shit! No, I actually did forget.
I didn't.
Okay, you go first then. Awesome.
I did forget.
That's awesome.
I did forget.
That's amazing.
Oh my god, I did forget. It was something about
we did the ET thing, and then I thought about Reese's Pieces, and it was just all gone.
It was something about that we believe that we are when we're at the fourth and the fifth, that we're a bit more advanced.
That was it. That's exactly that.
You wanted to say that too.
Yeah, that we're going backwards.
Yeah.
There's that feeling of, I'm at 4 and 5 now. I can't go back and look at that stuff, because if I do, that's admitting failure, and that I'm being demoted back to the first.
And it's one of the things that I'm just on about all the time. You're not going back. You're going deeper.
Yeah.
You're not going back. Realizing that you are thinking that I feel angry throwing this chair through the room, and then I feel so much better. That's still selfing, like you said. You believe that there's a little animated I somewhere that can be improved after the chair has gone through the room. Then I feel so much better. Who?
Yeah, there's a me experiencing that rage and
Yeah,
feeling
yeah.
so much better when that rage has been dissipated.
Yeah. And
Yes.
yeah, exactly. So it's really, really looking into, okay,
Yeah.
you need to go deeper. You need to
Yeah.
go deeper in this identification.
Yeah.
The other part about this that I also want you to look into about the second part of the question with who is creating the wants and the wants. It's all about the trauma.
Mm.
That if you have a starting point that is created by, a little 5-year-old that is creating this want or don't want, that little 5-year-old need your attention. You need to be your parent.
Yeah.
You need to be the loving mother and the protecting father for yourself if you haven't had it. And that little trauma 5-year-old in you needs to be there until it has been met. It's why I'm really, really, really talking so much about trauma as I am, because it's so important not to bypass. We really need to feel it in the body, and whatever we weren't allowed to feel when the trauma happened, that we need to sort that out. You need
Absolutely.
to own that before you can let go of it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just
It's gonna
kicking
keep
you're
coming
just
back.
kicking the can. You're just kicking the
Exactly.
can. And you believe it will maintain to be your starting point. If you
Yeah.
have an idea that you're not okay as the person as you are, that you're too much, you're too loud, that will follow with you.
Yeah.
And it's gonna follow you through all the fetters. You won't be able to let go of that. That little person will, because it needs attention, it needs love and care, and it needs to be felt. So it's not so much that therapeutical part where you realize it and you know it. Not about that.
Yeah.
It's about feeling it into your body. So really, do everything you can to looking into who is it that is creating, that is maintaining this idea that I'm not okay. If you just bypass it and say that there's nobody there, then it's just bypassing. You really need to look into, but who is it that needs this attention? Who is it that? And also, when you realize what it is, if because it's usually only one thing. If you have an idea of you being too much, that is your starting point in everything.
Yeah.
So whenever you have a feeling coming up, somebody's saying something and you feel it right away, if you know what it's about, you can immediately see, oh wow, here we are again. It's okay. Can I be in a body where I feel that I'm too much? Yes, I can. Okay, good. I've been here before. I know it, and now it's sorted. And then you can move on with it instead of without it and diverting from it.
Yeah.
So it's also very much about, I would just want to emphasize that again, that it's not about getting rid of something. It's not about something that needs to go away. It's about you moving with it as a part of which it already is.
Yeah, but it's like becoming aware of, to me, it's like you have this starting point that's driving all of the behaviors and all of the reactions and all of the wants and all of that stuff. And there's something about recognizing what it is when it's happening that allows it to, it's hard to talk about in terms of, because it's hard to talk about in ways that doesn't sound like we're positing another self there. Because it's not that you then can do something different because you have seen it and now, it's not really that. It's that the behavior itself is changing because the starting point doesn't have the effect that it used to have. There's basically another layer of, when we talk about our behavior, it's really this very complex automatic system of biochemicals and thoughts and all these different things that are creating what we experience as us, as our behavior and our reality and our experience. And when we change any part of that, it changes the whole system. And if your fundamental thing of your starting point, which is directing basically all of the behavior and all of the, the perception of your experience, if the perception of that changes and the experience of that changes, that's going to change the way that the entire rest of the program is working.
Absolutely.
It connects to everything.
But it's also why that you can't do it with your head.
Yeah.
Because if you have this idea that I am too much, okay, now I'm going to prove for myself that I am enough. Yeah. Then you just have exactly the same starting point. You just have the opposite polarity, which is exactly the same. Yeah. But when you are allowing for that feeling to be there and you're allowing for it to be as it is, then it doesn't need to yell anymore, which means that your whole biochemistry changes. It's slowly dissolving, and you're getting a completely different starting point that has nothing to do with your value anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, love it.
Thank you.
Sixth pointer. What I want or what I don't want is a false limitation created by the lack of knowing.
I love this one so much.
I love it so much.
It's such a good one.
Okay, you go first.
No, you can go first.
No, but I've already talked about it. You go first.
You're really good.
Okay.
You're much more succinct. So
okay. Whatever you believe that you want, the 100 million, and that is going to get rid of the feeling of you being too much, or you not being enough, or you being poor, or you being whatever you have. That is so limited.
Yeah.
Believing that, first of all, that is only, so you settle for 100 million. You settle for that, and you settle for only it influencing you now feeling that you're enough. That's what you settle for. I mean, we have zoomed so much in to the selfing and the I, that we are completely limiting ourselves in our little bubble, and it's only this that is possible. In the lesson I'm talking about, that when you limit yourself with any kind of want, that you need to zoom out, because you're really missing the bigger picture. If you think that it's the cupcake that is helping the feeling that you have right now, oh my goodness, you are in the smallest bubble ever. You need to zoom out. You're focusing on a lack, and focusing on a limitation, instead of seeing that focusing is actually making the world even smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such, again, it comes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, about having this sense of imagination where we can project all of these possibilities, but we have the hubris of thinking that our imagination is big enough and knows so much about everything that what we think of are the best options are really going to be the best options.
And it's not. It's a complete copy paste of the past.
Absolutely.
We don't have any new thoughts ever. We have a copy paste. Do you remember how many percentage it is? I can't remember.
No.
With the amount of percentage of thoughts that we have every single day that is just a repetition of yesterday, it's staggering.
It is.
It's really staggering. There's nothing new coming through your head at any point. It's just a complete repetition of everything that you have heard. I mean, if I say like blue car, you're thinking of a blue car that you've seen. You know, you're not thinking of the blue car I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the blue car that's part of my bubble, of my memories, of my backpack, of what I remember. Probably not the same blue car that Elon Musk is thinking about.
Guarantee not.
No. And that is the whole point. That's the whole point. If I'm telling you to think about a dog, you might surely be thinking about a dog from your past or from your life. You're not thinking about,
or again, the best possible, like we talked about, it's going to be the best possible cupcake or the best possible partner. It's this idea that we fail to also imagine all of the flaws of all these things and the possibly not satisfying aspect of them, that we create the best possible view, or in a lot of cases, the worst possible view of the things that we're afraid of, or things that are here, and then take that to be the whole of reality.
Yes, yeah.
And it's just incredibly
super good point, because it's also about the part that when we fantasize about the future, it's only all the good stuff. And if you honestly think back to your life, some of the greatest insight in your lives didn't happen with all the good stuff. It happened with all the struggles, and it happened with all the things that you were fighting through and dealing with. But we don't, that's not part of the fantasy that we have. It's only all the good, only the great trip through Europe with the kids.
So be very wary of your narrative. Be very wary of the scope and the limitation of what you are expecting, what you're fantasizing, and what you really think that you want, because those are inherently biased and flawed in so many ways, but we don't have the humility to recognize that most of the time. We think we know what's best for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We think we know that, whatever I choose now, I'm choosing for the best possible reason. I have my best interest at heart. No one has as good of an interest, an idea of what I need more than I do.
Mm.
And then you play through that, not realizing that you have such a limited perspective on not even the absolute scope of the universe, but just even what's going on in your own psychological, emotional world most of the time.
Mm.
That we have no idea if what we think is the best thing for us has
No,
it could
because
be an
we have
absolute disaster.
yeah, but yeah, exactly. But
Yeah,
also just about the part that we haven't got all the information.
exactly.
We haven't got all the information. We are like the 2-year-old that you ask, would you like an ice cream or $100?
Yeah.
The 2-year-old is gonna go, give me the ice cream, because they haven't got all the
No.
information that they can buy tons of ice cream with $100. And it's the same with us. We haven't got all the information, and that is the lack that we are forming our fantasy with, and creating the best thought of scenario. Even that is so limited.
It is.
So limited.
And people can find that to be also very uneasy. It's a very destabilizing thing to realize that you do not have that much information, and that we're making all of these choices and judgments from a place of real ignorance.
Yeah.
And that is
this pointer is tickling the 10th fetter, which is about not knowing that you do not know anything. No. You do not know anything. It's really that humility of not knowing.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah.
But I can see how it's also a real sensitive one, for a lot of people.
Yeah, because we have so much hung up on knowing.
Yeah.
That I know what is best, and researching and all
Absolutely.
of that. But
yeah. I mean, the best possible decision is the most researched, best informed decision. But even spending a year to decide on one blender still doesn't take in even a fraction of all of the necessary information that you would need to know whether that was actually a good blender for you.
No, and also, how do you know that the best blender is not produced on the day and released on the day that you bought the blender you researched for a year?
Completely.
You don't know.
Absolutely no
have
idea.
Absolutely no idea.
No.
I just noticed on the picture that you're sitting a bit further up. Can you come over here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Actually, wait, while I'm adjusting, let me just take a drink.
Do that. 7-pointer. Are you ready to move on to the 7-pointer?
I think I am.
So, okay.
Okay.
Oh, I love this one. This is my favorite one, I think. It's not my favorite one, but it's a really, really lovely one.
It's a nice one. Everything
around the contracted sensation in the body is still and content. And it's back to what we talked about earlier, that when you have something, you want the cupcake because you have this contracted feeling in your body of not being okay as the person that you are. And when you eat the cupcake, you don't feel that. It's only for a short while, but thank God there are more cupcakes in the world. So you just buy another cupcake and have that, and then you don't feel that contracted sensation in your body. What we're talking about is for you to place the cupcake on the counter and then just feel into that want, feel into that pull that you have towards the cupcake, and the push you have away from feeling that you're not okay. And then looking into the thought that is connected with the cupcake, that the cupcake is just a thought, an ideal of what the future will hold once you have eaten the cupcake and you don't have the feeling in the body anymore. And it obviously, impermanence, it's not going to last. And then separating the thought and the fantasy of the cupcake, and just looking into that feeling that you have in the body, staying with that feeling of not being enough, of not being okay as the person as you are. Detach the thought about that and just stay with the sensation in the body. And here comes the good part. When you stay with that sensation in the body and you notice how it's moving about in your body and it's changing all the time, then you can also start to notice the space between the contraction.
And the space around it, because we only focus on, you know, when you have if you have a pain in your body, if you have a pain in your leg, that pain often can be the whole of your experience. That can be so intense that we forget that there's anything tangible outside of that experience. That pain becomes just huge. But when you really observe the pain in the leg, it becomes this kind of smaller, more gauzy, nebulous kind of a sensation. But what we still often neglect to recognize is that that is still only one small sensation appearing in this kind of vast experience. And so you can sense all of that space around that contraction. Just because you're feeling that pull for a cupcake and you feel something in the body, and as you said, you notice changes, you notice that there's a space in between when it's kind of coming in and out, it's moving, it's shifting. But what is there around that space that you can feel into? It might even feel outside the boundaries of the body as you experience it. That is this open space that we neglect to recognize all the time.
That is there all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
But we only pay attention to the things that feel really contracted, really tense. We very rarely even recognize when things feel good in the body.
Yeah.
You know, it's mostly when things feel uncomfortable that sends up a little red warning light and is like, oh, pay attention to me. And then we notice it. Otherwise, most of the time, our bodies feel either neutral or even positive. And we just don't notice. So this is something where when you're in that gap, you're feeling that tense sensation, you're feeling all of these things, the contractions, whatever, feel outside of the boundaries of that. Recognize if that sensation is observable in some sort of imagined space, what is all around it? What are you experiencing just outside the border of where that sensation ends?
I love it. Yeah. It's one of my favorite meditations. I've done it sometimes with the Q&A and also with my groups that make that meditation where you notice the sensations in the body, and then you notice the space between the sensation. And like you say, suddenly you have that experience that there's no boundaries to the body. And it's just stillness, simplicity, and contentment in that space between. And since it's not limited to your body, it's expanding, and it's just wonderful.
And that contraction can still be there.
That's
the thing. That's the thing to know is that, but that's the thing to make. It's not that you are distracting yourself from it and it's now going to magically go away and it just disappeared. That can still be there as this really tangible thing, but it's not the whole of your experience. It doesn't have the pull and the traction and the importance that it once had, because that was just absolutely everything. Now you are everything else, and that's just,
again, and I know I'm always mentioning that, but when I had Addison and when I had all the body pain, that was one of the exercises that I did. And it wasn't because I was diverting from the pain, because the pain didn't change. The pain was still there, but it was not all of my focus. It was like the yin and yang, that it was all the pain, it was all the nausea, it was all the seizures and all that, but it was also the space between. It was also the stillness, simplicity, and contentment between the pain. And that is what we completely lose. We lose out on when we just focus on, I have a headache, and we keep the label of the headache, or I have, a back pain, I don't want back pain, or I have cancer, I don't want cancer. That we completely miss out on that space between the contraction in the body. Thank you. Thank you. Love that. Okay, the next one is a good one. I have the thing about the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, and this is from there. 8th pointer. Even if, never, even if, always, and it's okay. And it's that even if I never get the 100 million, it's okay. Even if I'm always going to be with this pain, it's okay. And it's looking into that. It's dissolving the narrative of a want is going to improve anything. And it's looking into the other side of it, that even if that will never happen, and even if I will always be like this also 5 years from now, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's really a description of equanimity.
Yeah.
That no matter what happens, you know that there is a contentment and an okayness with whatever is going on. That that well, I was gonna say, on one hand, it's a feeling of like, it's okay, I've got this, but on the other, there's also the knowing that nobody's got this because there's no one there to got it. But I think it's that kind of an absolute okayness with what arises, because there is just what is arising.
Yeah, and it's a pointer that we're also repeating in the fifth fetter. Because when you have that idea, it's more clear in the fifth fetter that there's something that is like, you don't want it. You want it to be different. You want to manipulate people to be different so they can accommodate what you want.
Yeah.
In the fifth fetter, it's so clear how absurd it is. Yeah. It's more subtle in the fourth fetter, where it's something that I want. It makes it a little bit more subtle.
I think because, especially, the difference is, as I see it, would be, with the fifth fetter, a lot of times it's, I don't want something that's outside. And with the fourth fetter, it's more, I want something because I don't want something that's inside, which makes it even harder to deal with, because we really have to get introspective about what's in there that we're diverting from. It's really easy to see that my coworker pisses me off every day. I don't want that. That's really right in your face. Then you can go internally and find out what that's about. But I think with this, because it's still pointing us to a don't want, it's just a really subtle don't want. It can be a little bit trickier. But again, I think this even if, never, and always, it keeps pointing back to the first fetter ideas of that narration of self, which, again, if that's really gone, then this is super easy. Because there's nothing there that is going to, there's no belief in an enduring self that is going to be continuing, for the next 5 years or however long. And that is never going to get something.
And also, sorry for interrupting. And it's also the part about the second fetter, that even if I'm gonna have this feeling of fear, anger, guilt, and shame for the rest of my life, it's okay.
Yeah.
You have to have been into that room of fear, anger, guilt, and shame to really, really know this is okay.
Yeah.
It's completely okay that I get that 5-year-old contraction and feel that I'm not enough. I mean, it's okay. I mean, if that didn't happen, I would never remind myself that I'm okay as I am. Yeah. So it's completely okay. It doesn't have to change. Whatever I'm so hung up on needs to change for me not to feel like this, I'm missing out. I'm missing out big time, because of, like we talked about, that with the limitation, and we're so blind on all the possibilities that are actually there for insight. And this pointer is really inviting you to acknowledge everything that is there and allowing everything to be there, and it's okay. Yeah. It's truly okay. You're not looking into your trauma for it to go away. You're not looking into your fear to avoid having an anxiety. You're not looking into fear, anger, guilt, and shame for anything other than just looking into it and feeling it and feeling and feeling it. And that is okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to talk a lot about this one. I think this must be one of the first pointers in the fifth fetter. Because it's that super, super manipulative, where we want people to be different for our life to be better. So we're circling back to this one.
Yeah.
Ninth pointer.
All right.
Which basically is the last one that we're going to talk about.
Okay, yeah, that's right too.
Whatever tool is used for insight, it's just a tool and needs to be left. And this is one of our Buddhist favorites, about that the awakening curriculum is just a tool. The insight inquiry that we're doing, it's just a tool. Having these different ways of acknowledging what is there, looking into what is a thought, separating the thought from the feeling, just staying with the feeling, all of that, everything we have talked about, it's just a tool.
The fetters in themselves are just a
Just
tool.
a tool.
They're just an outline to describe potential way of viewing and working with experience.
Yeah. And seeing through the identification and the assumption of what is happening. But it is just a tool. If you make it into anything else, you make it into a belief.
Yeah.
And then you just go back to the first fetter and start over start over there with the new beliefs that you just created.
Yeah.
So it is that Buddhist metaphor of you using a raft to get from one side of the river to the other side, and when you come to the other side, you leave the raft when you move on. It's seeing it like that this is not something you can believe in.
No,
you can't create it into another belief.
And it's not something to get hung up on. I mean, we talk a lot about trauma and stuff too, but there's also the recognizing that something has happened, experiencing it, feeling it, being there, you know, as you said, going back to the 5-year-old child, being there, loving it, being the loving mother and protective father and all of that. But it's not to get hung up on the story about, well, this happened, this is my trauma, this is, and I've got to work with this
I am
for the next 30 years.
I am the chameleon because of all the fear, anger, guilt, and shame. I am the passive aggressive bully or the aggressive bully, and this is who I am. It's why I have so many warnings before I start with those lessons, because it's only to inform you. It's not to give you a new belief.
Exactly.
It's just to give you a tool to see through all the delusions that you have created about it, and then leave it.
Yeah, and it's so it's such a convenient way that we have gone about our lives most of the time, that we, especially in this culture, in this kind of societal time where everybody's doing BuzzFeed quizzes to see which Muppet are you, which, you know, like you gotta,
have you done that?
Of course I've done that. Come on.
Which Muppet are you?
Kermit. Totally a Kermit.
Totally Kermit.
But yeah, but that's the thing, like you can do like, which everything am I? And you know, and then even like, you know, on the but there are so many different scales, so many different, you know, types and everything else that we, well, okay, well, I'm this type, I'm an INTP,
all the personality types of an Enneagram,
and so you take all of those things and that becomes your identity. Well, I'm happy that I am an INTP because I'm, you know, like this, versus, you know, an INFP, this, you know, or whatever the thing is, like, you know, I'm super rare because I'm this. And it just becomes this another ego delusion that we just keep piling on. And it's the same exactly as all the things that you're saying, that they're really helpful pointers. But we hear, you know, I mean, while we're on it, as we say, something you hear a lot about with people who are working with the fetters is that they get really caught into, which fetter am I at right now? Where am I? I think I'm stuck at this one. I don't know. I think I'm at 6, but I maybe I'm at 7. Maybe my leading edge is out here, and maybe my trailing edge is there. And we get so locked into where am I now that is like super first fetter.
It's just like so first fetter. Every time I hear it, I'm like, I think you're in the first. I think you're in the first. I do. You're in the first.
Yeah, because there's that identity of being a person who is working their way, slogging their way through the fetters like you're climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And that's not at all what it's about.
No.
And so, so I think it's really helpful to hold all of these things lightly and just take them as really convenient tools while you're working with them, and then lose that identification with any part of the process and any part of the tool.
And that actually brings me a little bit back to the third fetter. I didn't really talk about it when I made the material for the third fetter, but that's part about all the different things that we believe in to be in a certain way, that we believe in Christmas being like this, Halloween being like this, that I'm a Gemini in my horoscope, and that means that I'm like that, and with the numerology I'm a 3, and with Enneagram I'm like that. That all those beliefs that we have of things, I'm the oldest of my siblings, and you know, all of those beliefs that we have, that is creating that false persona, which is completely tied into magical thinking. And magical thinking is a part of trauma. It's a trauma survival mechanism to have that magical thinking. So the more we create a belief about different things that we are holding on to, the more do we need to let go of it and really see through it, really allow it to hold it lightly, and see where that then takes us.
Yeah, because it's very easy to hold on to these things as a new ritual or a new, this is my new belief system.
Yeah, exactly.
I am a Fetterer.
Yeah, I'm a Fetterer.
I'm a Fetterer. I'm an awakening curriculumer.
Yeah.
And this is and that's not what it's for.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of that joke with the Buddhist that is sitting and seeing through self. And his first thought is, "Oh, I'm looking forward to telling all the others."
That's great.
Yeah. So it's really holding it lightly.
Yeah.
Beautiful. The last pointer, the 10th pointer, I am always wrong. They are always right. And there's not much to say about that, actually.
Are we going to say anything about it or just leave it like a koan?
It's a koan. It's not. It's absolute truth.
No.
It's absolute true. It is utter truth. Utter truth. And when you understand it, then you're ready for the 5th fetter, I would say. When you really, really realize that you're always wrong and they're always right. I mean, if you really, really embrace this and you know that it's not about diversion. It's not about bypassing at all. No. I'm not asking you to bypass. I'm not asking you to stand and breathing in a paper bag and going, I'm wrong and they're right. I'm wrong, they're right. Yeah. And that's how you manage an argument. It's not about that at all. This is true. What I'm saying is true.
And it's also not about just becoming a doormat and just feeling like, yeah, you're right. I am always wrong. I'm an awful person. I've always been wrong. You can just do whatever you want. You're
just
right.
Step all over me. Exactly. Just step all over me. I'm worth nothing. You're always right. I'm always wrong. It's not about that either.
No.
It's not about that either. No. So it's about, the hint we can give is that it's about release a belief. Yeah. And then you will see it. Yeah. It's a good one, isn't it?
It's a very, very good one.
Very, very good one. Yeah. Yes. But I can recommend you that next time next time Janice is doing something, then just think that she's right and I'm wrong, and see where it takes you. See where it takes you. Really, really be curious to where it takes you. Yeah. It's a good one.
And again, don't take that on as a belief either.
No.
That I'm wrong, she's right, and then just go with it. It's not to be like, yeah.
No, because then it's just back to tapping into a trauma of you not being okay. Being okay.
Yeah. So it's a tricky one. It's a little more subtle than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
It is a good one.
I think that was it.
I think so.
This was great.
This was
the first sofa sit.
Probably not the last.
Probably not the last. No. Probably not the last. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, we have the inquiry group that you are really welcome to join. Just write to Todd. And you have an amazing channel, Unfettered Mindfulness. And your email is unfetteredmindfulness@gmail.com. Yeah. And you also have private consultations you are guiding as well.
Yeah, I have some small deep dive groups, and then also I'm doing one-to-one sessions, paid sessions.
Yeah, besides the inquiry group.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions about the curriculum, every other Friday I'm doing a Q&A for the curriculum. So
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, are you ready?
Yep.
Are you ready?
Yeah. It just feels weird to begin with.
It does. It does. It's only until we start it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting.
Okay. Mouse and cursor out here.
Hello.